G'day. Now, as I've spoken before about this being a dream of mind, life, as we know it, is a dream of life, an interactive visualization of conscious thought, or a virtualized environmental construct of mind. One mind with an infinite number of personalities, or personal realities, identified attitudinal behaviours within that mind. Now, is there some sort of a system at play here? Whereas all of the personalities visualise their thoughts, contribute to the dream state. But is there some sort of a mediative function that monitors that and regulates that within the mind? In my research, when I used to have a sound therapy clinic a long time ago, I actually was impressed. It was a reasonably slow day. I didn't have many clients. So I was impressed to get sheets of thin cardboard that you would use to draw on artist work and that sort of stuff. Thin, flexible cardboard types. Thin cardboard, or you would call it very thin, very thick paper. Okay, now I was impressed to cut out over 1,000 small equilateral triangles out of that cardboard. I learnt to follow my intuitive guidance, my gut feelings, and just automatically thought, oh, this must have a purpose, I'll do it. So I cut out these equilateral triangles, and then I stuck them together, started sticking them together with sticky tape. Okay. Now what that created was something pretty incredible. In essence, it was a product of icosahedrons. Icosahedrons have 20 external equilateral triangle facets. They form 12 pyramid points, and those pyramid points are of pentagon-based pyramids, which represent desire. So this was a construct of these icosahedrons, sticking them all together, and in essence, the initial base, if you take 12 of those icosahedrons and also create a dodecahedron, which has 12 pentagon facets of motive, personal thought or consciousness, but use those pentagon facets to form pentagon-based pyramids, but not outwardly directed, inwardly directed towards the center of that structure. Not at the center, they don't form the center, but towards the center. Okay, so it's an inverted dodecahedron. Ended up with 12 of those inverted dodecahedrons, and the pentagon-based pyramid inversions, you connect 12 icosahedrons into those particular dodecahedron pyramid structures directed inwards. So there is no pentagon base anymore, it's just inverted to form pyramids, internal pyramids. And they are the sockets for these icosahedrons to fit into. Now this structure ended up being a product of 12 of those structures. The internal base was an inverted dodecahedron, with 12 icosahedrons slotted into those spaces, but 12 of them all connected to a common centre, to a common vortex of a geometric sphere. It amazed me. It was all equilateral triangles, but it amazed me at what I ended up with. Initially it ended up to be a very large icosahedron structure formed out of those 12. I called them actons. An acton, as an acronym, acton stands for active concealment, or active or concealed, tectonics orchestrated, necromancy, or necromantic synopses. Necromancy. Now, in my studies, my research, I realised that a pentagon-based pyramid of desire and an icosahedron of will is a product of 12 of those pentagon-based pyramids externally directed to form the icosahedron of 12 pentagon-based pyramids expressed. It's an expression of desire. So the icosahedron represents will. So will is an expression of desire, an expression of wishes. Okay. So we have all of these expressions of desire. If we say that someone is very spirited, what does it usually mean? Well, very spirited creature, or whatever, very spirited, usually means having a strong will. Very spirited, having a strong will, a strong desire to do something or not to do something. Very strong will. Okay, so we have this large icosahedron structure. Now, a strong will, very spirited. What I realised was that that pentagon-based pyramid of desire, or a wish, desires or wishes, represented spirit. As we said, very spirited. Represents spirit. Spirit. Desire. Motive-based, a personal sense. That's what the motive-based pyramid represents. Motive-based sense is a personal sense. Motive is personal thought or consciousness. Conscious sense or personal sense. That's what the motive-based pyramid represents. The pentagon-based pyramid of desire. Okay, spirit. So will would be an expression of spirit. Okay, so we get back to the acton. Active concealment, or active or concealed, tectonics orchestrated, necromancy. Now, necromancy usually means communicating with spirit. Communicating with spirit. Well, a lot of people thought it was communicating with the dead. But let's say communication with spirit, necromancy. A communication of the spirit or communicating with spirit. Active or concealed. Active or concealed, seen or unseen. Seen and unseen, possibly. Different versions of the acton, seen and unseen. Tectonics orchestrated. Now, tectonics, as we have tectonic plates and all sorts of stuff on the planet, tectonics is more or less the art and science of building. The art or science of building. Building. Tectonics orchestrated. Active or concealed. Tectonics orchestrated. Necromancy. Communication of the spirit. Okay, so an acton, more or less, is a communication of or with spirit for the purpose of building something. For the purpose of building something. Now they're products of will, expressions of desire. Expressions of desire. Motive-based sense. Okay, communication of or with spirit for the purpose of building something. An acton. To act upon. To act on. Building something. From spirit. Or from desire. It's simply something being built from desire. From a wish. Okay, so we have this large structure. Large icosahedral structure. And the initial points, the 12 points of that large icosahedral structure, are created by a smaller icosahedron. Now if you use those smaller icosahedrons to be, again, create another different type of acton, 12 icosahedrons, all connected into a particular base design, but you use the base design, that base design becomes an icosydodecahedron of intuition. But again, like the dodecahedron of instinct, it's inverted. So the pentagon facets of the icosydodecahedron are used as pyramid bases, and the pyramids are directed inwards again, but this time they connect to a center point or vortex. All of those 12 pyramids directed inwards form an agreement at the center of that geometric sphere, the icosydodecahedron of intuition. So you have this inverted icosydodecahedron of intuition with, again, 12 icosahedrons of will connected into those 12 sockets. Now there are 12 of those actons connected in to the nodules of that larger icosahedral structure. Okay, now that particular acton, we'll go back to the first one, the inverted dodecahedron of instinct. Now, when you connect those icosahedrons into those dodecahedrons, it creates, well, the base design was instinct, a dodecahedron of instinct, inverted dodecahedron. So instinct based, but when you connect those icosahedrons into that, you get another faceted sphere. The base one had inverted dodecahedrons, impressions of desire, impressions of instinctual desire, the desires of instinct. That's the base of that acton, the base design. Then you have a support design, which is the top part of that icosahedron, directed outwards as a pentagon-based pyramid. So it's an expression of desire. Now that particular structure, formed by those pentagon bases, forms another product of the mind as social or environmental conscience. Now, social or environmental conscience is a product of equilateral triangle polarized prisms, creative logic, creative memory. But two of those as in the equilateral triangle polar facets. If you connect two together to form a hexagram top and bottom, hexagram facet top and bottom, two equilateral triangles overlapping, interactive, experiential, creative logic, experience-based creative logic. Social or environmental conscience is a product of experience-based creative logic, or interactive creative logic, or interactive creative memory. Interactive or experience-based creative memory. Okay, so that's what those internal actons that all connect to the center point formed. So that particular acton represents instinct-based social or environmental conscience. It's impressed by the desires of instinct and expresses the desires of social or environmental conscience. It's an instinctual, social or environmental conscience acton. Okay. Now those other actons connecting into that larger icosahedral structure, the base is intuition. So it's impressed by the desires of intuition, but the external or support design of that acton, that particular acton, is formalization. It forms a geometric structure by the pentagon bases of the externally directed pyramids of formalization. Formalization. To make something acceptable to a particular system. To formalize something. To make something acceptable to a particular system. Intuitive formalization is that acton. So you have the main icosahedral structure, instinct-based social or environmental conscience, actons, and then the nodules are intuitive formalization. Now that represents a forum complex. A forum complex. As an acronym, FORUM, figurative, oblique referendum under mediation. Figurative, metaphorical, referring to something, but not actual. It just refers to something else. Okay, figurative, oblique, indirect, not directly done. Figurative oblique referendum, public vote on a particular subject. Okay. Figurative oblique referendum under mediation. Mediation, obviously, there's another party facilitating that process, monitoring it, controlling it, keeping it controlled. Figurative oblique referendum under mediation, the forum complex. Now, in essence, a forum complex is a feedback process. Now, that's what a forum is, where all people come together, or a lot of people come together to discuss a particular subject, to discuss something, all putting in their 2 bits worth, but being monitored by this mediative process to keep everything organised. So a forum complex, it's a feedback process. Feedback process. All these expressions of desire, products of will, expressing their wishes, and you have a feedback process. Now that feedback process, the forum complex, is when all entities of a planetary consciousness are all contributing, making their wishes, expressing their thoughts, visualizing their thoughts, or what they want to be visualized, expressing their desires, and through that forum complex, that mediative process, the feedback process, goes back to the source. Goes back to the source. All of those wishes, those personal thoughts, go back to a source. And then at that source, the dream state is adjusted, modified, according to the forum complex. Everyone's opinions about what they want, what they would like to see, what they would like to manifest, their expressions of desire, their wishes. Okay, so that feedback process goes back to the source. That source then determines the changes to the dream state. Now, how would that be determined? Let's look at 8 billion people, just humans, without the other creatures, all expressing their wishes for something, wanting to achieve something, wanting to have something. You have them all expressing their wishes. So how does the dream change in accordance to those 8 billion personalities of that particular mind state or dream state, all wanting something? How would that be regulated? Obviously, like I said, through that mediative process. It listens to all of the opinions, all of the wants, the wishes and desires, and then determines what to manifest into the dream state in response to those wishes or desires. Feedback process determines the dream state, how it is evolved, how it is modified, changed. To me, that's fascinating. Now, I thought, well, what's that all about? And what's the source that it's talking about? Now, let's use this scenario, possibility. Let's say that a star, now the acronym of STAR, our sun, and other stars, the acronym of STAR, self-teaching and rejuvenation. Self-teaching and rejuvenation. Self-teaching. What would we say was self-teaching? Now, intuition. Intuition, inner learning, inner tuition. Learning from within. Inner learning, intuition, self-teaching, and rejuvenation. Making something new again. Self-teaching and rejuvenation. But to rejuvenate something, you need memory. You need memory of what something used to be like before it can be rejuvenated back to that state. Intuition, rejuvenation, memory. Now, what do I determine from that? Self-teaching, rejuvenation. Now, instinct is personalised common logic, personalised common memory. It's behavioural logic, behavioural memory. Those inner act-ons were instinct-based and supported by, expressed by, social or environmental conscience, which was experience-based creative memory. So personalised common memory, and that other structure is again personalised, it's motive regulated. So we have personalised common memory, behavioural memory, and then you have personalised experiential creative memory. social or environmental conscience. To do with the environment, the dream state. Okay, self-teaching and rejuvenation. You have to have memory to rejuvenate. Self-teaching, intuition. The external act-on was intuition-based. However, the internal structure of that larger icosahedron formed by 12 instinctual, social or environmental conscience act-ons, where the particular 12 internal icosahedrons are all directed and connecting to a center point, those particular 12 icosahedrons create an intuitive act-on. Now, the base of that act-on and the support design are both intuition. It's purely intuitive. But also, those external act-ons in the nodules were intuitive formalization. Self-teaching, rejuvenation from memory. Forum complex, our star, our sun. Is it possible that our star is that source, that mediative source, the forum complex? Feedback process goes back to the source. Then the sun, the star, regulates the changes to the dream state, to the environment. Now, what does our sun do? What have we noticed that our sun does? It has 11-year cycles. 11-year cycles, where it has these sunspots, changes in magnetic fields, and those changes affect our planet, our reality, our solar system. Okay. So our sun actually manifested the solar system, this planetary dream state, and regulates that planetary dream state, determined by the feedback process from all of the entities, personalities within that dream, the shared dream, a shared mind state. Now, what I determined was what that sun or star was or represented in the mind was a virtual brain. A virtual brain. A virtual brain mind. Okay, the virtual brain mind manifests virtual realities, monitors and changes, evolves that virtual reality, that dream state. And I've spoken before about the virtual brain mind. Instinct is the virtual brain. Now, we had instinct-based social or environmental conscience act-ons forming that forum complex. Okay, instinct is the virtual brain, a product of personalised common logic, common sense agreements, personalised common sense agreements. Now, that is represented in the geometric form as you take a cube and then you add a centre point. You'll become, what do they call it? It's body-centered, a body-centered cube. Then you add 4 more cubes rotated around that same vortex centre, that body centre, 5 cubes create the points of the dodecahedron. And that cube is made up of 2 tetrahedrons. The 6 facets of a cube, if you draw lines across the diagonals on all those 6 facets, it would create edges of 2 intertwined tetrahedron pyramids of common sense. The agreement formed at the centre, or where those diagonals intersect, at the centre point of those square facets, forms the points of an octahedron of nature. Nature, attitudinal behaviour. So that cube, or those cubes, end up to be nature-based or attitudinal behaviour-based common sensory logic. Attitudinal behaviour-based common sensory logic. When they're personalised, those octahedrons of nature at the core, or as the agreement of that common sense agreement, form intuition. Product of 5 octahedrons, structured in the same form as we did with the cubes. At a centre point to one octahedron, add another 4 octahedrons revolving around that same vortex, creates the points of an icosy dodecahedron of intuition. Okay, now with that whole structure, that internal structure, we connect all of the points of the dodecahedron, the external points, the 20 points, to one another internally. Connect all of those points to every other point internally. It creates all of these junctions of those lines of thought. At those junctions you add points, which create internal geometric spheres, different geometric spheres. What it does is creates 5 internal geometric spheres. The innermost structure is an icosahedron of will. Then the icosydodecahedron of intuition. Then another structure representing, or a product of, mental motive logic interpretations. Experience-based mental motive logic interpretations, or belief-based mental motive logic interpretations, forms personal conscience. Then we have the social or environmental conscience structure, product of creative logic, experience-based creative logic. Then the next one out is a product of belief-based or belief-polarized practical motive logic applications. Belief-polarized practical motive logic applications. It forms language and species differentiation. Language and species differentiation. Restricted. It's a restricted interpretation. Then obviously the outside structure is the dodecahedron of instinct. 6 controlling mind states of a virtual brain mind. 6 controlling mind states of a virtual brain mind. Manifesting realities, monitoring those realities, and adjusting those realities. Virtual brain. Now, 2 of those structures were products of belief-polarized mental motive logic interpretations, and belief-polarized practical motive logic applications. Through belief, we actualize the virtual reality. We believe it to be an actual reality. Virtual is something that can be sensed but not believed to be an actual reality. But when it's believed, it becomes an actual reality. So the virtual brain mind is a product or forms a virtual reality and also actualizes it. It also actualizes that virtual reality. Creates planets, life forms, dreams, dream states, interactive visualizations of conscious thought, virtualized environmental constructs of mind, feedback to the source. The source created the dream state through all of the personalities within that dream state, through the forum complex, the feedback process. It takes on board all of the requests, all of the personal thoughts, the wishes, the dreams, the attitudes of those beings, those personalities within the dream, and regulates the dream. That again fascinates me. It's a very organised process because it's a mind. The mind, in essence, is organised, usually, until it becomes confused, like ours. Okay. Very organised. The language of mind, the language of thought, geometry, helps us to navigate, calculate, and construct. Helps us to navigate the dream. Helps us to navigate the dream. Geometry is that language that helps us to navigate the dream. Helps us to calculate and construct the dream. It's a language that represents that process. Navigation, calculation, construction. It's amazing. It really is. Because we have all of these stars. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of stars. First of all, making up galaxies. And then all of those galaxies forming a universe. And if each of those stars is a virtual brain mind, manufacturing realities, virtual, actualized virtual realities, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So you have a network of these stars forming a galaxy, a network. A network of stars, a network of virtual brain minds. Incredible. So, that's what I wanted to talk about, was the forum complex, the feedback process, on how this dream state and how all dream states are formed, monitored, and regulated. Now, you would imagine a forum complex, everyone has input, everyone gives out their ideas and opinions, and those ideas or opinions are then monitored, taken on board, processed to determine what is changed or what is visualized into the dream state. Now, with that work on, let's say the majority of those personalities within that dream were thinking along similar lines. Not necessarily the exact same wishes, but possibly on similar lines, then the more personalities thinking about similar things, it would probably make sense that there would be more chance of the dream being changed according to the majority. We have democracy, majority rule, and we have dictatorships. So if, like I said, a large group of people had a similar goal, a similar wish, similar desires, having a similar foundation or fundamental principle, it would make sense that the dream would change according to that majority rule. That can be good or bad. If the majority of personalities in a dream all enjoyed violence, then the dream would become more violent. If the majority of the personalities in that dream wanted peace, then something would manifest into the dream to represent that process of bringing about peace. All these processes of bringing about a more violent reality or bringing about a more peaceful reality. But then you could have large groups wanting violence, large groups wanting peace, and they could be all manifested into the same dream. Look at our dream. We have all these hippies and peaceful people running around, flower people, love, peace, yeah. And then we have all these other people running around with weapons, trying to destroy peace. All manifested into the same dream. Okay, the forum complex, the feedback process. Now to me, if we had more people wanting peace, then we would go through a transition process of moving towards a state of peace. But if we had more people coming on board and enjoying the violent stuff, find it entertaining, what do? We have all these video games and movies and all sorts of stuff. Violent movies, violent video games, ripping people's heads off and all sorts of stuff. It's classed as entertainment these days. Wow, look, there's all this stuff blowing up. All these people getting slaughtered, ripped to bits. Love it. Entertaining. Think about it. The more people who think violence is entertaining, the more chance from the feedback process, going back to the source, determining what to visualize into the dream could become more violent. How would that be enacted? Could it be enacted through the climate of our planet or through the planet itself? Earthquakes, volcanoes, all sorts of stuff. Massive storms, hurricanes, tornadoes. Look at our climate. Sort of makes sense, doesn't it? All this feedback, all these people finding violence more entertaining, or jumping on board, majority rule, all contributing to the crap that's going on at the moment, and that has always gone on, possibly, that we know of. How do you change that? Well, that's pretty obvious. You stop regarding violence as entertaining. You start wanting or wishing for peace. More personalities wishing for peace. tired of violence, had a gut full of that shit. Let's have something else. All wishing for peace, feedback process, forum complex. Everyone having a say, but possibly the majority rule thing, or a very powerful wish. What would create a very powerful wish? Personalities with very, very strong wills can influence our reality. Hitler. People like that. Jesus, Mohammed, Buddha. People like that. Influencing reality. Having a very strong influence on the dream. You know, and you've got to look at history. It only takes one very, very powerful personality, very strong-willed, very spirited, desire, very strong desires to achieve something, and then influencing a lot of other people to come on board so they can actually bring that desire, that dream into reality. You can see it through history. It's been happening forever. It's still happening. We have to be careful. All these followers like sheep, all following a shepherd. You know, oh yeah, I'll fix everything for you. Offer all this sort of shit to people that they want. You offer enough people the potential or the opportunity for them to express their own wishes and desires, and they'll come on board. They have the chance to bring my stuff into the dream. Oh, well, we'll agree with this bloke or this woman, you know, and then we'll get a chance to bring our stuff into reality. We just help them to bring theirs in first, and they'll help us to bring ours in. Makes sense, doesn't it? Does it? Because those very powerful personalities aren't interested in giving you what you want. They're just going to get you on board so they get what they want. What you get after that, it's up to them. Because they're in control. You allow them to be in control. Majority rule. All this politics, the art and science of influencing and controlling others. That's what politics is. The art and science of influencing and controlling others. People have become very good at that. Yeah, studying the mind, studying people, their wants, their wishes, their desires. Offer them this, we'll get that. Just because we offer doesn't mean we have to come to bring it into fruition. We'll just pretend we will. We have to be very careful. Like I said, we have a forum complex. We have that process in action at the moment. Probably always been in action. Virtual brain minds manifesting realities, monitoring and changing those realities, those dream states. And we're all embedded into the shared dream, this shared dream. Possibly this planet is different to the dream states of other planets. But this planetary consciousness, this virtual reality that has been actualized through belief, through personal preference, preferentiality. Now we're sharing this one dream. We need to be responsible. We have that feedback process. To me, I'm pretty convinced that's how it's always been. That's why I created that structure. To show me, to bring back, it was more or less a trigger. You create a visualization or an image of something that represents something within the mind. It brings back or recalls memory. That's what I did. I started to recall these memories of how things are, how things came about. Now that particular structure with the nodules, the actons on those nodules of intuitive formalization to make something acceptable to a particular standard, intuitive formalization, that is the assessment stage of the forum complex. Then you have the adjustment stage. Those external nodules become or change. Now those 12 icosahedrons of that intuitive based formalization acton, if you rotate those icosahedrons, it will form a base of, from intuition, so we have intuitive formalization, then you have what you would call product of justice. Now, a justice is a structure, a personalised reason. Personalised product of reason forms justice. But justice itself has two particular structures. Accrual is one of them, and the other, accrual and I've lost the words. Okay, I'll get back to that. It'll come to me. But it is actually the adjustment stage. You have the assessment and then the adjustment. What is fed back to the source, what is directed back to the dream state, the adjustment stage. Okay, so where do we go from here? You know, it's a self-perpetuating dream. Our thoughts automatically or inadvertently, sometimes on purpose, but most of the stuff that we manifest into this dream is unintentional. It's just our thoughts, our wandering thoughts, our racing thoughts. Oh, I wish I could have this, and I wish I could have that. Oh, I wish I could have done this differently, or I wish everything could have been different to this, different to that. All those wishes, all those desires, I've always contributed to the dream state's changes. Visualized thoughts, personal visualizations. That's what desire is. That's what a wish is, a personal visualization. We're having all of these personal visualizations, all these wishes, these desires. And reality is changing according to them. And most of us didn't even realise that. It was just through ignorance of the facts. You know, it's just through ignorance of the facts. So, we need to become less ignorant, more aware. See, once we have the knowledge, once we're made aware of how things work, then we're not ignorant anymore. We don't have an excuse. Quite often, some people go, well, now that I'm aware of how all that stuff works, I can really focus on the good stuff, on the stuff I want. That's how it works. And I've been doing it anyway, but didn't even realise it. Now I'll really focus on that. That's possible. Some people might do that, the selfish ones. a lot of the ones that have been creating a whole lot of crap and didn't realise it might go, oh crap, I didn't know I was doing that. Then they would change. Or I'll start having better thoughts. Start making better wishes. Now that I know how it all works, I didn't mean to do all that other crappy stuff. I thought my thoughts were private. Didn't make any difference to anything. Not true. They've always made a difference. Every one of us have always had equal potential within the shared dream to bring about something in that dream. Every one of us. That's how it's always been. Like I said, when we become aware of it, we need to be careful. We need to wake up. We really need to wake up so we can create something better. Something better into the shared dream. Helping one another, caring about one another, creating stuff that will benefit everybody, not just the selfish and the greedy. They need to change. Hopefully they do. Otherwise, all of the ones wanting peace, wanting to have this incredible reality, they could unintentionally, through their wishes and dreams, bring about something to get rid of those other people. Those selfish ones. You know, the planetary, the climate, the behaviour of the planet can bring about a whole lot of stuff. It can manifest a whole lot of stuff. Destructive stuff. You know, so even the good people who have good intentions, wanting peace, wanting harmony, and going, oh, there's got to be a way to get rid of those other assholes. Be careful, because there is. You can manifest something into the dream state that will get rid of those other assholes. Possibly not in a nice way. Like I said, we're all wielding our potential. We need to be really careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And not in the way that you want it. So we have to be more precise when we make our wishes. I wish those people who are selfish could understand what they're doing and take responsibility for it and change their way of thinking to help everyone else and to help themselves, to create a better life for us all. That'd be a better way of doing it, or asking for it. Ask and you shall receive. Putting our wishes, desires, the feedback process. Make more precise wishes so you don't get a whole lot of shit that you didn't really mean to create. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope somebody got something from it. And we'll catch up. Thank you. Before I go, as I said, I was trying to think of a structure in that adjustment stage of the Foron complex, and I knew it would come to me eventually. It came to me after I'd finished the video. So I'll add this bit. Now, that particular acton on the nodules of that large icosahedral structure, when those icosahedrons of the intuitive formalization acton rotated, I think it's about 36 degrees, if they all rotate about 36 degrees, it'll create that other structure of terminal emulation-based contestation. Terminal emulation-based contestation. To contest something, that's pretty obvious. Contestation. Contesting something, not really happy with the way things are, and you have a protest. Contestation, a legal debate. Contestation, a legal debate. Now, terminal emulation could mean terminal the end of something. Emulation, to emulate the end of something. Okay, terminal emulation could mean to emulate the end of something. But a terminal can be a mainframe of a system. A mainframe of a system. To emulate a BIOS, basic input-output system. Terminal emulation, to emulate a BIOS. Terminal emulation-based contestation. To emulate a BIOS within the mainframe of a system to determine what is accepted into a system and what is expressed by that system. Terminal emulation-based contestation. To contest something coming in or contest something going out. The adjustment stage. Terminal emulation-based contestation, but like I said, it could also mean to emulate the end of something. It could even mean to emulate death. Terminal emulation, or just to emulate the end of something. Okay, the adjustment stage. I just wanted to add that little bit. And as well, I'm going to add a couple of short videos on the forum complex, the geometric structures of those crystals. And as we were saying, the adjustment stage, terminal emulation-based contestation, to determine what is accepted within a system or into a system, and it can also be what is terminated from that system. So what comes into a system and what is terminated from that system, the adjustment stage. Okay, and I'll add these two crystal structures. The first one will be the assessment stage with the nodules of the intuitive formalization actons. The second one will be the adjustment stage with terminal emulation-based contestation actons on those nodules. Okay, and thank you.